Hello all and welcome to the Designing a Digital Magazine for iPad in 90 Minutes. My name is Jack. I work here at Oomph and I'll be taking you through this webinar. I've been working here for 2 years doing all sorts of things from designing magazines, brochures, templates, the whole deal. So hopefully I'll be able to give you some good insights and training this morning. So what we'll be covering this morning is firstly, why digital magazines? If you're potentially new to the game or just interested in what a digital magazine can do for you, we'll go through some pros for that. And then we'll head into the Oomph platform, give you an intro and some basics, the what, why, and how of them. And then I'll show you how to use. So we'll go through some examples I've set up. So we've set up a magazine template, and we're going to go through some examples, how to set up your interactivity, how to set up your documents, how to set up your folder structure, and lastly, how to export and publish to the App Store. And then finally, at the end, we're going to have some Q&A time. So if you have any questions about any of the content, please feel free to load up the question bar on the side there. That's there for you to use. I have my director here, Erica, and she's also going to help me answer questions throughout the webinar. So let's get started. So why digital magazines? Like I was saying, some of you may not have entered the digital space for magazines yet, but I can show you there are many positives and benefits from providing a digital version of your magazine. Firstly, we have global reach. So unlike our print counterpart, it's very easy to push out a digital copy of something to all corners of the earth these days. So that obviously has quite a bit of benefit right there, dramatically increasing your readership. You can complement your print version. So some people, they might prefer prints. Other people might prefer a digital copy. So really what you're doing is you're providing your users and your readers with their preferred style. So really giving them the choice, which most people really appreciate. Third thing to consider is the rise of iPads specifically. So looking at latest iMonitor reports, since 2010, iPad magazines have increased by 10 times, which is quite a significant figure. So obviously, it's not a fad or a novelty, but in fact, a very sustainable and viable option for magazines. You get to engage your users on a new level. Obviously, the iPad, it can handle all different types of media. So you have your regular, your content, but you also can have your video, your audio, different visuals, and then of course your interactions. Faster distribution. So obviously with digital you can finalize your content and you can publish within minutes of each other. Huge benefit if you have things that are being updated constantly, or you need content to your readers as soon as possible. Number 6, analytics. Something that's unique to digital is you get quite incredibly detailed insights as to how your readers are consuming your content, and that is probably one of the most important things for magazines, because obviously you want to give your readers more of what it is that they want to increase your readership. And then lastly, we have flexible content management. So with digital, there's no publish and print, that's it. You can go back and you can update your content You're also not limited to the size of a magazine. You can easily increase or decrease the size of your magazine, the pages, and the layout with no price difference. So those are some solid reasons why you'd consider a digital magazine. The next question, of course, is why Oomph? So Oomph is a real leader when it comes to getting print and web designers onto the digital platform or onto the iPad. So basically, we can keep our skills that we know as designers, and we can just apply that to Oomph and start publishing rich media apps without being able to or knowing any code whatsoever. So that's obviously quite an advantage for quite a lot of people out there. Why Oomph? We're really happy to say that over the years we've done quite well, and we're really happy to report that we now have over 300 apps on the Oomph platform, and within that we have 16 million sessions. So that's the users using Oomph content on different apps, and our apps are on more than 2.8 million devices. So some pretty mind-blowing sort of numbers to consider your sort of potential when it comes to digital. As an example, you might know we at Oomph we host the Coles magazine. So the Coles magazine uses the Oomph platform, and again we're really happy to report how well this is doing. We've got some feedback that's pretty outstanding, and we're pretty pleased with it. So you can see it's ranked in the top 2% of apps worldwide. Rated 5 stars within App Store's Best of Newsstand 2012. Featured in the App Store for 15 weeks, which is quite an accomplishment because apps usually go in and out of that. So we're really happy with that one. And also, more importantly, it's received the highest app rating of 14+ by global app ranking service iMonitor. So obviously we're really pleased with those numbers, and we want to kind of share that to show people what kind of success they can have with their digital magazine as well. So now we'll cover how to use Oomph. So what we've done here is we've set up a template, a magazine template, and I'm going to show you how to set up your pages, how to add interaction with those pages, how to export and test your content, and then lastly how to publish. So I'll just go across and I'll go to this template that I've set up. If you have InDesign, you're more than welcome to follow along at some level. So what I have here is the cover of my magazine. And what will actually be really helpful is if I show you the end result, but I'll quickly give you an overview of how it's set up inside here. So with your iPad, our pages are set up at a width of 768 and a height of 1024. Obviously, this is interchangeable if you want to create a landscape magazine. And within here, you can see we have all our content, not unsimilar to a traditional sort of print magazine. We have different layouts in here, contents, cover, and features. And I'll show you what that looks like in the simulator. What I'm using here is a combination of the Oomph editor and Apple's simulator. So to show you what I have here is open right now is the Oomph editor, And these are basically our PDF exports and our folder structure. So we can see user structure and also edit interactivity in here. And we can also export to the simulator, which is what I'll do here. So if I have grab my bundle, I can just drop that in Oomph Editor, and I can hit play here. We have two options. We can play to the iPad if you have an iPad connected, or the simulator if you have the simulator installed. And as you can see, that loads up my magazine in here. So I'll play that again if anyone missed it. We have our cover, and we have the masthead animating in from the left, and we have some more things at the bottom fading in. We have a contents page, which features a long scrolling vertical in-page slideshow. We have our letter from the editor, which includes another VIPS, sort of like a drop-down to reveal the content inside. Here's a little bit of more animation, and we have a full-screen slideshow with multiple slides and links inside. Some custom animation. We have an in-page slideshow. We also have on this page in-page video as well as full-screen video. And here we have an example of a tall page. So what I'll do is I'll dig in this step by step. We'll overlook some of the standout features and how you can create these as part of creating your digital magazine. So I'll head back to the InDesign file, to the cover, and we'll look at, first thing, creating page animations. Very easy, one of the first things you learn when you're doing Oomph. So like I said before, with Oomph, you don't need to drop any of the skills you have already learned. We're still in InDesign, we're still dealing with familiar concepts. All the layout is the same, obviously it's a different format. Even exporting is the same. All we really need to learn from here is how to export your files in a structure that is compatible with Oomph, so Oomph will know how to interpret your export files. So I'll show you how to do that now. So what I have set up here is my cover, and I have some elements on different layers within InDesign. So I'll show you if I isolate the bottom layer, I have my background image only, and then on a separate layer I have my masthead, and then I have my little text clips at the bottom here. So I'll turn all those back on, and I'll show you how to export these to create layer animations. So first we'll just get the background layer on its own, and we'll export this. I already have all my files set up, so I'll just be replacing those. So what you can see in here is my folder structure. Here I have a folder called Digital Magazine iPad, and this is our bundle or our project folder. This contains all our pages and sections within the magazine. If I go a level down, you'll see I have this is what we call section folders in here. So this is cover, contents, editor, so on. And you'll see that first starts with 10- and then 15-, 20-. This is simply so Oomph knows which folder to show first. And if I go in a layer deeper, I can see my pages. So in here I have my first layer is P1-1. So that's what we're going to replace now. So if you'll notice, the first letter is P. This simply stands for portrait. And then we have 1. This first letter represents the page. So this is the first page. And then we have the second number here, again 1. So this indicates layer 1. So we have portrait, page 1, layer 1. And we'll just go ahead and export that. And we'll just say the page range 1 and export. We'll then again isolate our masthead, and we'll go through the same process. We'll export this. And this time we want to add an animation. So to do this, we simply just add an animation type at the end of our file name. Oomph has about 16 now default animations, which you can just type out on the end of any file, any layer, any object to animate. So in this case, it's going to be move in from left. So again, we can see our naming convention, which is P1. So we're still on portrait and we're still on page 1, except now we're saying this is going to be the second layer. So this will be our second layer that's on top of our background layer that we just exported. And we're adding the animation, which is move in from left. So we'll export this one. And lastly, we'll do the same with our text at the bottom here. So we'll export, and we have P1-3-fade in. So this time this is our third layer, same page, same portrait page, our third layer, and we have a fade in animation applied on top. And we'll export those. And if you're watching carefully, you also realize that I accidentally exported this page. Oh no, yep. I exported page 2. I should have exported page 1. So there we go. I'll fix that up. So our result is our first PDF, p1-1.pdf. Also note that this layer, this time happens to be PDF, but you can also use JPEG, movie files, HTML files, etc. We have our second layer, P1-2-move in from left. So this layer will start from off the screen and move onto the screen. And we'll have, it's white text so you can't quite see it, but we have our text at the bottom, which is going to fade in. So what I can do now is I can actually test this section simply by dragging it down onto the Oomph editor, and I can play that to the simulator. You'll notice back in my file structure I also have an animations folder, Like I was saying, there's default Oomph animations, but there's also animations where you can customize. So these ones, they're using the default animations, but we're editing them slightly. So on this bit simulator, installs and opens, and we can see indeed our masthead moves in from left and our text at the bottom fades in. So super simple. You're designing just as you know, and you're just exporting in a particular way. So I'll go ahead and show you a few more examples. So this was animating layers, and we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to start creating interactive content. So for this, we'll use the contents page as an example. Right here I have my background elements, my image, and my little header at the top here. And on a separate page, I also have my little contents squares for each different section of the magazine. So here I just have a long page representing each section as my contents. And I believe since InDesign CS 5.5, they've introduced a great tool where you can change the size of a page using a drag and holding down Option. So that's really useful for creating long scroll elements like this. So what we need to place this content within our contents page is a vertical in-page slideshow hotspot. So you can see here I have a green frame. This is my hotspot, and this is what will hold my vertical in-page slideshow, or as we call it, a VIPS. So to add a hotspot to a frame, we need to open up our hyperlinks panel, and you'll find that under interactive. So what you'll need to do if you're setting this up fresh is you'll draw out a frame, and then you'll create your hyperlink in this panel here. And then what we can do is we can simply say, you know what, this needs to be, hold my vertical in-page slideshow, so I'll say VIPS1 for vertical in-page slide, and it's the first instance, so it gets number 1. And we'll untick shared hyperlink destination. We'll press OK. Now what we need to do is we need to make the content for this slide, which we've already done here. You want to make sure for this slide that the page width is the same width as the hotspot here, and they're both 768, which is fine. If you don't make it, you might get some scaling or some letterboxing effects that you don't want. So we'll take this page and we'll export it. This one goes into the next section, so 15-contents, and we'll replace our P1-1, portrait, page 1, layer 1. And we'll also export the content for the slideshow. So we'll export this page as well. You can see in this folder we have our corresponding folder representing the in-page slideshow. So for every hotspot you want to have a corresponding folder in your section folder. So just as I named the hotspot VIPS1, I'll also have a folder in my section folder called the VIPS1. And this concept applies for all types of interactive content within Oomph. There's just going to be a different name for the hotspot. So obviously there'll be different names for the folders. And you can see in here we also have an animation applied to our VIPS, to the layer inside. So this one is, we're going to export this as S1-1-moving from bottom. So very similar to the page setup, but instead of a page, we're calling this a slide, which is represented by the S. And it's the first page of the slide, so it's S1, and it's also the first layer. So we're saying S1-1. And again, adding in a default animation of moving from bottom. So we'll export that into the VIPS1 folder, page range of 3. What these little squares also have to do is actually have to link to content. So as you tap these, I'll show you in the simulator, in fact. If I tap any one of these little squares here, this is going to take me to the section. So if I tap your creative power, that'll take me to the last page here. So to do this, we simply need to add in a page link. A page link is similar to a web or an email link, and they're very easy to set up. You'll notice here I have a blue frame, just an empty graphic frame that sits on top of my artwork here. And again, we'll apply a hotspot to this frame. So in this case, it's already set up. And to do a page link, all we need to do is put in a P for page, and then we need to put in a section name. So in this case, it's going to be shop. You'll notice in my section folders, I have a section folder here called shop. So all you'll need to do for this to work is you need to get the name exactly of a section name, any section name, put it inside your hotspot with a P in front. And as you can see from the simulator, that links straight through to that section. So we'll export our newly exported contents page. Again, we'll have our P1-1 in there, and then we also have our VIPS1 with our S1-1 inside of that, and we'll see how that runs. So we have our VIPS, which has a smooth scroll, and it moves in from the bottom as when it first loads, and should have the hotspots on top. Right now, they won't work because we don't actually have any sections other than contents loaded in, so it has nothing to link to. Next thing we'll take a look at is these web links. Down the bottom here, we have some social buttons, and these are using web links. So if I simply just tap on here, it's going to take me to a website. Again, these are super easy, just like the page links. All we need to do is we can either apply a frame on top, or we can just grab, in this case, a group here, and we can enter in a URL. So in this case, we have the Oomph HQ Facebook page. So very easy to create a apply links to pre-existing content. In here, this example, I'll show you again. We have what is called a full page slideshow. So if I tap a button here, it takes me to a slideshow that takes over the whole screen of the iPad, and I can interact with content in here and swipe across multiple pages. So to do this, we just want to make our layout like here, and we'll just add buttons. We have these, in this case, these little plus buttons, and then we have little frames over that. And this time our hotspot is going to say S1. S1 is the name, just like the VIP S1. This one is just for full page slideshows. So very simple. We're just saying S for slideshow and then 1 because it's the first instance. Obviously, if you have multiple full page slideshows, you can just say S1, S2, S3, S4, etc. And we can also determine which page it goes to. So in this case, we want it to go to page 1. And if I look at other ones, I'll see page 2, page 3, etc. We'll also need to make the content for the full page slideshow. So as you can see here, I've just got pages that are set up at 1024 by 768. And they're just plain slides. So one after the other, just like this. You can have as many as you want. You can have any sort of interactivity inside them as you want. The thing to note about full page slideshows is anywhere there's sort of a blank non-interactive area, once you tap on there, the full page slideshow will close. So I'll go ahead and export this. In our next section, 20-editor, no, I should say 30-shop. And we can see here I've set up an S1 folder, and inside there, S1-1. With Oomph, what you can do is you can export multiple pages inside the same PDF. So instead of having to export separate pages, one after the other tediously, what you can do is combine all these pages into one, call them S1-1, and Oomph will automatically read that it has multiple pages and display them accordingly. So if I export this, S1-1, so this should be 9213, I believe. Export that. So in here, yes, I can see I have all my slides in here. I have my P1-1, which just has my hotspots, top of the plus buttons. And now I can go ahead and test this. So yes, as I tap the buttons, I'm entering the full page slideshow. Different buttons will take me to different pages, like so. And then you can also have interactivity within your slides. So in here I have what will be a page link, linking out to whichever website you choose. So again, really simple way to create interactive content, especially if you already have content set up. In this case, we've literally just added some hotspots and created some slides. The next example is an in-page slideshow. So this is going to be very similar to our vertical in-page slideshow, and I'll show you what that looks like in our template. So before we were swiping up and down, getting a smooth scroll. This time we're swiping left to right, and we're actually getting a snap effect. So to achieve this, what we're doing is we're creating slides that are exactly the same size as the hotspots, so they snap between pages like so. Let me go ahead and show you how that's set up. So we have our hotspot at the top of the page where our slideshow is to go. And in our hyperlinks panel, we've given it a hotspot of IPS1 or in-page slideshow 1. And below we'll set up slides, simply just having all the images you want in there. And again, we have multiple files, which is fine, as many as you want. And all we need to do now is export those files. So if I show you within here, we have an IPS1, and here we have multiple files, all the same size as our original hotspot on our P1-1. In this case, it's the second page, so it's P2-1, and that's where our hotspot goes. So again, very easy to create some interactive content. Like we had shown before, you can also include video, whether it be full screen or whether it be in-page. Also very easy. So to do this, we simply just have a hotspot here. This one's called IPv1, and this can go just bang straight on top of whatever content you want. This stands obviously for in-page video 1. And if we take a look inside our section folder, which is 40-feature, we can see our IPv1.mov reflected here. So we have an IPv hotspot, and then we have the corresponding IPv1 file. This is an MOV, but you can also use M4V and MP4, I believe. So simply by creating this hotspot and exporting that on our page, this will be the P3 page, and including an IPv1 folder, we can have in-page video. This of course includes the standard iOS controls, which let you go full screen as well. To create a full page video, much the same. We have a hotspot on top here. So this graphic frame here with an image inside, we've just called that V1. So we can just create a new hotspot, call that V1, export our page with this hotspot on top. And down here we also have a V1 file, which is a movie folder. To show you what that looks like, just give that a tap and it automatically opens up. And we have the controls at the top here again. Pause, skip, play, minimize, done. So what we have on this page is an example of an object. An object is very similar to a slideshow, except that you can't swipe in between pages. Objects are controlled by action hotspots, or they're just simply like this and animated. So here we have our P page. I'll show you the corresponding section folder. So we simply just export this P page on its own, P1-1. And we have some animating layers as well, like I showed in the first section. And we have hotspot here, this blue frame, if you can see that. I'll zoom up on that. This blue frame, and we have assigned that hotspot the name. With objects, you can have any custom name that you wish. So in this case, we've called it relevant to what it actually is. So we've called it circles, and we've also applied a custom animation here. So we're saying circles, comma, scale, up, down. So if we look in the simulator, we can see what it's doing is it's taking that hotspot losing a bit of audio, but we seem to be back online. Okay, we're all hotspot, an object hotspot with animation applied to it. So in here, we'll have our own page, just like the slides. We'll have an own page with its graphic on it, and we'll export that in the section folder. Here you can see our corresponding circles folder, and within that, the artwork. So when we export all that, we have our custom animating object right on top of the P page there. So this right here is a tall page. As well as having snap pages, which are pages that are perfectly the dimensions of the iPad. You can also have pages which you can smooth scrolling on. So we have a look at the InDesign file. You can see this page is 768, which is the width of the iPad, but also has a extended page size. So in this case, 1603. What you can do with Oomph is you can extend the page size as much as you need. There's no limit in size of height, so you can keep going as long as the article or the content requires, which is extremely handy. You might find when creating your content. So if I export that, in this case it's my P2-1, and you can see it's just a long PDF with all my content on it. And in the simulator, we just get a nice smooth scroll like this. So in this example of the magazine, it's all been portrait pages, but with Oomph you have the flexibility of creating different orientations. So there's also landscape, and there's what is called both. So I'll give you a preview of both of those. So simply by renaming this file, this PDF, I can change the way this content behaves. I don't need to go back into InDesign and re-export. I can simply just test content here really quickly by renaming the file. So if I rename this file L2-1, and we'll run this section in the simulator. Our first page was portrait page. And if we rotate the iPad, we're now seeing this content in landscape. So it's simply just scaled up to the correct size, and we get that nice smooth scroll. The good thing about Oomph and its flexibility is that because it can run files like PDF and HTML, all that vector content is scaled up regardless of the size of the screen. So in this case, all our type and all our vector artwork has just scaled up beautifully. Even on the Retina iPads, you're going to get really crisp artwork. So as well as L, you can also have B. B stands for both, which means that you can use the content in both portrait and landscape. It's best if I just show you how that works. So I can go to the second page. So what we're seeing here is the content works in portrait, just as you designed it. But now what the user can do is they can take the content, they can flip the iPad, and it will also show the same content, just scaled up. So this is good if the user wants to enlarge the content, they can read it more easily or see more detail within your content. A really handy feature and a huge time saver when it comes to creating both portrait and landscape content. So for now, that kind of concludes the part where I show you how to use Oomph. I hope that you found it really simple to pick up. Hopefully you can see that we're just taking content and in a method that you're used to, and we're just exporting it and putting it away. That makes it interactive and it makes it really engaging. And we can see the testing. Using Oomph Editor, we can test whole bundles or just sections, and we can test it, we can send it to iPad or the simulator. You can also edit hotspots, like so. You'll see the hotspots that we created in InDesign. We can look in here, we can move the hotspot around, and we can also rename the hotspot. Really handy for quick testing and changing of your files. So the next step of this is, okay, I've built my content, I'm happy with how it behaves, I tested it, it's all ready to go. Now I need to publish what I've created. So to do this, we need to use the Oomph Publishing Center. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our project here, we're simply going to compress it, and we're going to upload this to the Oomph Publishing Center. So I'll show you what that looks like now. So inside Oomph, we have the Oomph Publishing Center, so we can log in eventually, like I have now. And what you'll have once you set up is you'll have your own app, which you can, it'll look just like this, and we can publish content to it. So we'll say there'll be a button to create a new issue, and we can call this whatever we want. So in this one, it's going to be the magazine template, and then we'll add a description, and this will be a description that will show up if users want to download this. They'll tap it, they'll get some screenshots of the magazine, and they'll get a description. So you can create that whenever you want it to be. We can set when it's available from. We can just save issue like so. So inside we have options to upload our iPad or iPhone versions, depending on what device you're creating your content for. In this case, it's iPad. So we can simply just click upload, grab our zip file, we'll drop it in here, we'll say upload file. And in this case, I don't exactly need to upload it. That'll take a few minutes for larger files. So once that's uploaded, we can also add our preview images at the bottom here. So if I go into my simulator, you can just grab a screenshot from here. To my desktop, upload that. So your page will then update with cover. You can choose more screenshots for your magazine, but in this case, I'll just choose the cover for now. So there we have it. We've uploaded our content. We've given it its screenshots. All that's left now to do is to proof it and make it live. Proofing happens within your iPad. So what will happen is now that you've loaded your content up onto Publish, you'll be able to download it onto your iPad as a proofing issue. You'll then be able to generate the thumbnails and the indexing and patch that onto the bundle that you've uploaded. And from there, once you're happy with the way everything looks and behaves, you'll be able to make your app live. So yeah, hopefully that's really easy to get a grip of there. We've really worked hard to make the whole process really streamlined, creating content, adding interactivity, and publishing without too much trouble at all. What I'll show you also is I'll give you a quick overview of the UI within the Oomph viewer. We've recently upgraded to iOS 7 and we have a new look and feel. So as you would have seen before, we have our library screen, which shows all the issues that we have. It's in proofing mode, available for download. We have our home screen, which is a custom HTML page, which you can create and you can link to any issues or content within any magazine. And we also have our favorites. So what you can do there is you can favorite articles for any magazine, and it creates sort of like a mini magazine of your favorite articles and content. Inside, we also have some more UI in content. So we have little back and forward arrows. You can see if I click back here, that'll go back and forward to the next page you're on. We have a cover. We have a button for the cover, bring it to the cover, and one for the contents. So once you have published your app, you'll be able to see your thumbnails in here and content within your app. You can drag to it like so. On every page, there's also default sharing. So in your app, you'll have mail, messages, Twitter, etc., as well as add to collection, like I was speaking. Again, with publishing, what you'll need is a few assets to go along with your app. It'll be uploaded into the App Store, as well as having your library content. You also have App Store content. And for that, you'll need your splash screens and your icons here. What I've outlined here is the required artwork. So here we have our iPad app icon for iOS 7 and regular, and then our iTunes artwork for non-Retina and Retina. And this will just be a little icon that represents what your Mac is. And then we have the splash screens. So these are the images that you see, portrait and landscape. As you first open up your app, as things are loading, you'll first see this little splash screen for a couple seconds. So you'll also be required to design these in portrait, landscape, non-Retina, and Retina. So that does conclude the official learning section of this webinar. If you're interested in learning more, definitely contact our commercial team at sales@oomphq.com. Find out more about how you can set up your magazine app. Also, all attendees for today will be receiving the magazine templates. So look forward to that. That will include the InDesign file I've just showed you now, and it'll also include export files and any other relevant files to help you get designing and create some great content. So now I can jump on some questions. If there's any out there, I can help answer those. Yep. So there's a question about if you're a PC user and how you can test content. So for PC users, the Apple Simulator, iPhone Simulator, is not actually available to use. It's Mac only, but that doesn't mean you can't test your content. To test content, you can use iTunes. So I actually have my iPad set up next to me, which you won't see, but you will see inside iTunes. It might not look exactly like this on the PC, but it should be something similar. So once you plug in your iPad, you can choose your device on the left-hand side, or if it's a newer version of iTunes, it'll actually be at the top here. And then we want to select apps at the top. Obviously, you're going to need Oomph Viewer setup. Install on your iPad. So I'll just navigate to that viewer. And what you can do now is you can take that same zipped up bundle that we uploaded, and we can go to iTunes and just drop it in this well. So I've selected Oomph Viewer from the list. We'll drop it in the well, it'll copy over. And all you need to have on your iPad is Oomph Viewer open, and that'll automatically install and open your bundle. You can either do the whole bundle or you can do the section. It'll work the same way. So we have a question about resolution. So what resolution do the images need to be? The answer to that is will be determined on how big you want your magazine to be. So the native resolution for iPad 2 is 132 dpi or ppi pixels per inch. So that is the standard I use. You can also use a web resolution of 72, which will work fine. So in your InDesign export settings, I export one of these files. You can change your compression here to 132. There is a Oomph export preset which you can download from our support page, which is support.oomphq. So I hope that answers your question. Keep in mind also for vector content, it doesn't matter what size you export that at, it's going to appear crisp. So there's another question about typeface. Typeface, can you use any typeface without problems? The answer to that is yes. You can use any font. It doesn't have to be an iOS font. All fonts are embedded into the PDF. So the PDF will show any sort of font that you can put in there. The only real exception to that rule, which is probably not going to be very common if you're making an iPad magazine, is HTML. If you're using HTML, you might need to use the default iOS fonts, which there is a list of online. Otherwise, you can include custom fonts. It's a little bit more effort. So another question, when exporting PDF, can you use Acrobat 8 Plus and what settings? If you're talking about the compatibility, I believe yes, you can. As I said before, you can download the export settings from our site. So I'll just show you where you might find those. So here we go, InDesign PDF export settings. It shows you how to set it up. Or you can simply just download the file and install it into your InDesign. Essentially though, what you want is you want to have include bookmarks and hyperlinks. That's really important. Your compression, what you want to set it to, I have it to 132. Marks and bleed off, and you want your destination for color output to be sRGB. So we have another question about integration of databases. What about integration to a database, e.g. graphs changing based on values in a database user? It is possible to do this. We have a solution called Oomph Live, or you can import live data from a Google Doc spreadsheet. So yes, that is possible. It probably is worth a little bit more explanation. So if you'd like to, please get in contact with us and we can tell you all about Oomph Live. But basically, the answer is yes. Okay, that looks like One more question. Cost. For cost, please get in touch with our commercial team so that, again, is sales@oomphq.com. There's different types of packages. So there's obviously your newsstand app, which goes into Apple's newsstand, and then there's standalone applications with a library or just a single issue, and then there's also enterprise, if for some reason you'd be interested in an enterprise magazine. So all those have different costs. So please get in touch with us and we can advise you of that. And that looks like just about all the questions we have. If you do think of any more questions, please contact us. We also have our support email, which is support@oomph.com, which you can direct general queries to, or if you're getting stuck with design problems or Oomph interactive things like this. But yes, please stay tuned. We will have a follow-up email with the magazine template for you to play with. We also have webinars quite frequently, so please visit oomph.com/webinars to see all our different webinars. We'll be doing different topical things from here on out, which may interest you. Yeah, we hope to hear from you soon. We hope that you play with the platform. You can play with it for free. Just use the template, export to Oomph Viewer, and if you want to publish, go ahead and contact us and we'll set you up. Thank you for attending.